United States of America, President Barack Obama.
Good to see you. I just want to say, everybody back home, right back at you. We appreciate you. You always give us straight talk.
And welcome to Straight Talk. Well, today you're in for a big surprise. Call all your friends in the Chicago area, because I know the people in the Chicago area will be happy to see people who are concerned about the city of Chicago. And they want to be mayor of the city of Chicago to prove the fact that they are interested in the people in the city of Chicago. They say the city of Chicago have not been really represented for the last few decades, since Harold Washington. There really hasn't been any representation for people of the city of Chicago since Harold Washington. Think about that. Toll road sold. That was big revenue coming into the city. The toll road, why would you sell it? Parking meters made money all over the city. Nickels and dimes and quarters. They sold it for $1 billion. 90 years, something like that. Where's the money to replace the nickels and dimes that paid for the street cleaning, and paid for the snow removals, paid for the paving of streets, repaving of streets? Where's the money coming from that? Out of your pockets. It seems crazy that we continue electing stupid people to run a city of Chicago. The city of Chicago is a $1 billion corporation. Should be ran by someone with some type of a vision of business. I'm not talking about a rich person become rich hustling. That don't mean you're a businessman because you're a good hustler. Or a good thief. No, you got a lot of rich thieves. That's exactly what we got in Chicago right now. Rich thieves. So why would you allow a corporation to come in, and from what I understand now, that corporation may be on the stock market because it's making so much money in the city of Chicago, it is ridiculous. Charging us exorbitant fees to park on our streets. Streets that we pay to clean, we pay to maintain, but we got to pay some foreign country, some foreign company, a fee to park on our own streets. That's something wrong with that picture. We're not following the Constitution at all. You cannot sell city property without a referendum from the people. You cannot sell state property without a referendum from the city or county. You understand? That should be, let me see. Let's go to the forum. In this forum, it's on the south side of the city of Chicago, and 7 of the candidates, the original candidates who are running, they're there at the forum to talk to you about their concept of the city of Chicago and the mayor's office. I want you to listen carefully to them and choose the individual that you feel is going to properly represent you. Properly represent you and be concerned about you and your welfare. Not just someone who's looking for fame. I'm the mayor of the city of Chicago. What difference does it make? You're a servant. Regardless of what your position is, you're still a servant of the people. So with that said, let's go to the forum. It's on the south side of Chicago at 35th and Cottage Grove, Saturday morning.
We're here on behalf of the Fierce Women of Faith. We're excited that you all chose to be here with us this morning. Please provide yourselves in prayer position for our dear sister Ellen Floyd.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Father, we thank you for this day that you have made, and God, we honor you on today. God, I thank you for each and every one that's on the panel, the candidacy, Lord God, those that are running. Father, we ask you to get the glory out of this meeting on today. God, we ask you to move by your spirit and your power, God, to have mercy, Lord God. We ask you, God, for the people that are running for candidacy, that they would hear, God, and that you would hear what they're going to do and know their hearts and their minds for the people on today, God. And that you would have your way, God, in the place. And, God, that you see the burden for the city of Chicago, that you would move and that you would place the one in office, that you would have, God, to run the city of Chicago. And we bless your name, God, and we praise you, God, and we'll give you the glory, the praise, and the honor in advance, God, for what you are doing and what you're about to do and what you're gonna do in Jesus' name for the city of Chicago, God. Our hearts are hurting, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Amen, amen. Again, we are the Fierce Women of Faith. We stand on the shoulders of our ancestors to do the work. We're here for women and mothers and children. A lot of the mothers are here who have lost their children. This is the work that we do. I welcome you this morning. I am Sister Africa Porter of Africa Enterprises. Please welcome our CEO and founder, Marcinia.
Thank you, Sister Africa. She was going to introduce the candidates. But real quickly, so Fierce Women of Faith, as Sister Africa just said, we work with women and children all across the city of Chicago. We have a 5-pillar plan advocating for peace in all the communities, and we have been to each of the 77 communities. He says, stand up with all this stuff in my lap. Okay, I'm standing. We have been to each of the 77 communities, galvanizing and mobilizing women who want to advocate for peace and who are concerned about the communities. And that's the reason why we're holding this forum today. And with all of the things that's happening in Chicago, we're trying to find out and hear from the candidates why they're running for mayor and who would be the best for the city of Chicago. All of them are great, so we just want to hear from them today. So thank you all so much for coming. And today we have with us mayoral candidate Gary McCarthy, mayoral candidate Willie Wilson, mayoral candidate John Kozlar. Did I say that right? Mayoral candidate Dorothy Brown, mayoral candidate Amari Inyati. Did I say Inyati? Inya. Okay. And mayoral candidate Jamal Green. And as I said, mayoral candidate Paul Vallis is running just a little bit late. So if we could have everybody to take a seat, you know, if you all could just take a seat, then we'll kind of be really, really grateful. Thank you all so much for that. We're just going to have, real quickly, we're going to ask the candidates questions, and we're going to ask them about women, youth and children, violence, policing, education, and economics. We'll do that, and then we're going to have a Q&A from the audience. So we'll do 45 minutes with Q&A, and then we will have 15 minutes of Q&A from the audience. So I've been told to ask you not to hold the mic down because it would give us a reverb. Oh, just me? Okay, all right. But I have been asked to tell you that you have 1 minute to introduce yourselves and tell us why you're running. And then for each question, we want everyone to have an opportunity to answer the questions. So there may be some questions that are more directly to some than others, so you can do that. But at the same time, we would like for everyone to briefly answer the questions, okay? All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions for me? No? All right, let's get started. Yeah, they're going to do the introductions first. So we will start with Gary McCarthy, Willie Wilson, John, Mrs. Brown, Amari, and Brother Jamal.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Gary McCarthy, and I guess the short story is I'm running for mayor because I've been a public servant for 35 years, and I can't stand by and watch what's happening in this city. Knowing what the issues are, having solutions and having to stand by and watch other people fumble the ball. We're in a condition right now in the city of Chicago and in this country where the social economic divide that exists is now come full circle and really coming back to bite us. You can't treat the symptoms of gun violence, taxes and the economy, hopelessness in certain communities, and a poor education system separately. We need a holistic approach with the recognition that the social economic divide has to be addressed if we're going to solve each one of those problems. I have a 2-year-old son. I'm not leaving this city, and that's why I'm running for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Willie Wilson, and I'm running for mayor of the city of Chicago to make sure that we have equality and parity for all its citizens. Schools, no more, taxes. Making sure that we have the equal opportunity as any other citizen. Chicago is pretty much broke. Our kids in jail. Our schools don't have the necessary equipment or the dollars to invest into those communities. Our school teachers have to go in their pocket and take money out to give kids for book, But other communities have to update the latest equipment, the technology, the whole 9 yards. I'm running for mayor to fix that, and then we are going to take them and fix it. Medical, senior citizen, these taxes, bad taxes and everything. Everything just tax. We running to get all that stopped, and I'm running to help. I'm not running to make any money. I'm not running to help any friends, and I'm not accountable to the machine. I'm accountable to the people.
Hi everybody, my name is John Kozlar, and before I introduce myself, can we please give a big round of applause to the organization for putting this on here for us today? And I thank everybody for being here because you are part of democracy. You are going to be listening to the candidates up here. You're going to be listening to what we have to say. You're going to be listening to how we're going to introduce our plans to Chicago. I want to thank all the candidates up here. It's an unconventional thank you. Usually we are told to go against each other, but everybody up here, we announced before Rahm Emanuel decided not to run, which shows two things. One, we are not afraid to stick up for our city, and two, we are not opportunists. All these people who you're going to see jump into the race right now, they were afraid of Rahm Emanuel or they're opportunists, and don't let them fool you. So I thank all the candidates for sticking up for our city of Chicago. My name is John Kozlar. I grew up in the city of Chicago, born and raised. I went to Mount Carmel High School, not too far away from here, as well as the University of Chicago for undergraduate. And I got my JD from John Marshall Law School in the Loop. And me personally, I ran against the machine before. I ran for alderman 4 years ago. I was the age of 25. My first campaign was when I was 21. And I was always told, if you want to go out and make a difference, go out and do it. And right now, I think we need the youth to get more involved in politics because they keep on making generational decisions. It's just we don't have a voice at the table. I know I'm hitting my time, but thank you all for coming here, and I look forward to talking further.
Good morning, and I want to thank the Fierce Women of Faith and thank all of you for being here. You are an engaged electorate this early in this election. I'm Dorothy Brown, and I decided to run for mayor because I feel that it's time for someone that has a heart for the people, and that's qualified to run this office. Now, I'm going to tell you all later when we answer our question about my position, but I want to tell you about myself and why I'm the fighter that I am. You see, I came from a set of poor and uneducated parents. My mother was a cook and a domestic worker, and my father was a laundry worker and a cotton farmer. He took me and my 7 siblings to the cotton field to chop cotton in the spring and pick cotton in the fall. I worked in a factory right here in Niles, Illinois during my college years, putting up parts on a paint line. That formed me. that helped me to want to help people. I understand the least to the greatest. And then I went back to college. And my sister told me, Dorothy, you're going to major in accounting, and you're a black and you're a woman, and you're going into a white male-dominated profession, so you must be the best. So I graduated #1 in the College of Business, #1 in the Department of Accounting, #4 in the entire university, but not one major accounting firm would hire me. The gentleman that I tutored got the job offer. What happens when #1 is not good enough? Do you go into the corner and cry, or do you come to Chicago, don't know anyone, knock the walls out, and become the first African-American woman in the history of Cook County to be the clerk of the largest court system in the world? You just keep on fighting for the people, and that's what I've done for the last 18 years as clerk of the court, running that major operation. Before I became clerk of the court, I ran the audit department of the Chicago Transit Authority, that billion-dollar organization, making sure that there were controls in place. I was one of only 2 senior managers managing the audit of the entire city of Chicago. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have the experience to be the mayor of the city of Chicago as an attorney, CPA, and an MBA. I think I can run it, don't you? All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, if I stand up, that means that we're going a little bit over.
I'll try to make sure you don't stand up. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amara Enya. I want to thank the Fierce Women of Faith for putting this forum together for an opportunity to hear what you need to hear to make the decision for you. I'm a resident of the West Side of Chicago. The issues that we see in the city, I see every single day when I step outside my door. We're all aware of them. We can go down the line. You've heard many of those issues from my colleagues on the panel. But the overarching narrative is that we are living in a time, a unique time in history, where we can actually determine the direction of this city for the next generation and generations. And since this mic isn't working, I'm just going to project. Thank you. Thank you. My responsibility is not to tell you why I'm the person. My responsibility is to convey, from actually listening and engaging with the folks who live in communities, the issues that they're facing, so that the proper people to represent our interests can represent the city in the office of mayor. It's not about me, it's about we. That is the orientation that's necessary for an office that has far too long been driven by personality politics, cronyism, or this notion of individuals who have adopted the mindset that has caused us to be living in the circumstances that we face every single day, whether it's unemployment, closed schools, higher taxes across the board. So, as we hear from everyone in this election cycle, my caution and my introduction to you is that this is our opportunity. As someone who's worked at the top level of government, which I have right here in the city of Chicago, and saw systemically what plans are in place that recognize that none of this that is happening is by accident, that these are actual intentional policies that are driving folks out of the city. If you're black, 250,000 fewer in 15 years. We talk about displacement. We talk about the lack of employment. These are intentional public policies that I witnessed firsthand working the top levels of government. I'm an organizer. I've been working on these issues for years. Those of us who are organizers have been fighting across the board for this moment in time. And so my charge is that we hear what is being said, but recognize that the person who represents us is the one who's not saying what they can do, but is saying what you want them to say. Thank you.
All right, how's everybody doing out there? Good. I want to thank the Fierce Women of Faith for putting this together, as well as all of the candidates who have been in the race before Rahm decide to run away. I'm J. Maul Green. I'm an activist in the city of Chicago, but most importantly, I love the city of Chicago. I grew up seeing a lot of our problems firsthand, hiding behind bushes, watching gunmen shoot at people, looking out my window in Inglewood, seeing people shoot at cars like it was Grand Theft Auto. And as I looked around at our leadership, I said, why isn't anybody doing anything? I've seen presidents been put in office, new mayors, new aldermen, but yet the results in our community have been slim. I'm running for mayor because we need new leadership, not more corrupt people that are tied to the establishment, not more people who really haven't came into these communities, haven't seen these problems firsthand, because if they haven't saw these problems firsthand, then they don't have the passion to change them when they get in these seats. We are presenting new, fresh ideas. The only campaign in this race, no offense to anybody, that is presenting new ideas that no campaign in the country have presented that are attainable. And I know that we can do this, because when I become mayor, we become mayor, and we're going to do this together and give a new slate of politics to the city of Chicago. No more of the same Democratic old style. We need new politicians to come and take these seats for the next generation. And that's why I'm running for mayor.
That's okay. We understand. So we're going to give him an opportunity to, I hate to put him on the spot. Oh, that's okay? So just introductions. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I apologize for being late. I had to stop this morning on the north side, so I headed south, and for some reason there's hundreds of motorcycles on the Ryan heading toward Comiskey Park. I don't know what's going on, but it's weaving in and out of traffic. Well, many of you know me, and for those who have not, I'm the longtime budget director and CEO for the city of Chicago. I'm ready for mayor because the city's broken. We're a tale of two cities. We have way too many neighborhoods that are unsafe. There might be economic development going on and viable investment going on in maybe a dozen of our 50 wards. We have lead in our water. We have lost 70,000 students in the Chicago public schools and 30,000 students, 1/3 of the students in our city colleges. And our taxes and fees are beating the living daylights out of us. And it's impacting working families.
Well, what do you think, guys? You saw most of the 7 that was there. Paul was a little late, and after this commercial, he'll come back and complete his thought. But so far, each one of these guys they seem for real. They seem for real. They seem like they really want to represent the people of this city called Chicago. We haven't had that now for some years, since Harold Washington. Harold Washington was a representative of the city. He wasn't appreciated by all the members of the city, but he represented them anyway. I remember when gangsters wanted to continue doing gangster work, doing gangster stuff, and messing with the public. Some of them went to people like Jesse Jackson and said, Jesse, do me a favor. Get the mayor off of our backs. Jesse said, what are you talking about? He said, yeah, Jesse, we are okay with each other now. We don't have any problem with each other, right? He said, right, I don't have a problem with anybody. He said, but, so we want you to talk to Harold Washington. Get him off our backs, man, so we can continue working and do things right. He said, now you told Harold, you told the public that if Harold become the mayor, I will be ruling him. Now you're trying to make that come true. I don't have anything to do with that mayor and his business. Oh, come on, Jesse, you know you can do this for me? He said, okay, I'll do it. But support me for president. Oh, I can't do that. So if you can't support me for president, why should I do that for you? Money. Money doesn't work with everybody. Money doesn't work with everybody. You gotta have some scruples. and some real substantive things that you want to do for the office that you're running for. Not anything else. Let's take a small break and come back and finish the rest of Paul Vallis's introduction. We'll be right back.
Bye-bye.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably going to turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him. Hi, I'm a warning sign. I let people know when they're... Oh, gotta go. I'll be right back. Hi.
I'm Dr. Willie Wilson, speaking as a community leader and your future mayor of Chicago. We should all be concerned that the citizens with nonviolent misdemeanor offenses have their records expunged. They have served their time, and they need this opportunity to find jobs and become productive citizens. Now it's your turn. A vote for me is a vote for all citizens of Chicago.
Paid for by drwilliewilsonfoundation.org.
Okay, we're back, and let's get right back to Paul Vallis completing his statements.
Families across the city. And there's no greater measure in the decline in the city than the 17% loss in our residential property values. Think about that for a second. When we see the cranes going up on the north side and we say, how could that be? What that means is that in communities like Roseland, where I was born and raised, and Englewood and others, communities on the south and west side, there's 40, 50, 60% loss in local wealth. You see your property taxes going down to reflect that. We are a city in crisis. We are losing population. We are not growing. And I'm running because I believe I have the skills to change that. And obviously, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions to each other and obviously from the crowd. But the bottom line is I have always been a problem solver rather than a politician, whether it was straightening out the city's budget or balancing and reforming the Chicago public schools or going to Philadelphia and later in New Orleans after Katrina or in rebuilding schools. My approach has always been to go into troubled situations, address the financial issues that needed to be addressed while constructing budgets and prioritizing spending. So that the entire cities would benefit, so that everybody would share in the growth and the prosperity. So once again, I apologize for being late and running over. I appreciate your indulgence, and I look forward to a discussion with my courageous colleagues who decided to enter the race before Rahm Emanuel decided to drop out. So to my colleagues, let's get on with the discussion. Thank you so much.
I thought we had another candidate here. She must have left, who just joined the race. I think her name is Catherine Brown. She was here earlier. Okay, she's not here. Okay, so we're going to start with women, particularly, and so I'll start with Mr. McCarthy in terms of what do you see are the most critical changes that we need to make to ensure that women have a voice in the next administration?
I think what we need to really focus on is the needs of the community, which includes the needs of women versus the needs of men. And we need to have a compassionate government that doesn't exist right now. We need to have a government that recognizes what's going on and comes up with solutions to fix it. We need to stop having political government, and we need to start having business management government that recognizes the needs that individuals have. And we need to start breaking down walls, and we have to stop the polarization that exists in this city. And we need to stop acting like LeBron's not playing tonight. Okay, I'll get in the game. And that's what we're going to see, and that's something that I guess everybody touched on moving forward. We recognize what the issues are. We recognize that there have not been solutions for them in the past, because the first step towards reconciliation is recognizing what the actual issue is, and we haven't done that. And that social economic divide that I mentioned, we're going to talk about over and over again, because it affects women in a fashion where we have single-parent households, if we're fortunate. Sometimes young men and women are being raised by older brothers and older sisters and grandmothers and great-grandmothers. And I had the opportunity to sit with the women of the sisterhood recently and listen to their needs. And it was a very emotional engagement that we all had. But we talked about solutions. And those solutions lie first in recognizing what the issues are. And that has not happened in this city.
Okay, so I'm being texted that we can't go too long. Okay. All right, so try to I gave you, I did that. Okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You're absolutely right. You're right. Okay, Mr. Wilson, so what do you think are the most critical changes that we can make sure that women have a voice in the next administration?
Look, I'm going to, okay, good. I want to pass that question just for a moment, and I'm going to use my time to say a prayer. We're starting out. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the people who put it on. Thank you, dear Lord, for bringing us all here. We realize, dear Lord, that in order for any one of us to be mayor, you're going to have to be your approval. Dear Lord, to focus on you.
Girl,
and you
the young lady.
Bless all the candidates
she was speaking.
Bless people who put it on.
She was telling something.
Bless all those who came. And tomorrow, dear Lord, when Sunday in church, let us all head to the church, and thank you for giving us life. And dear Lord, lastly, let us just keep it real. In our song, in Jesus' name, we pray for his sake. Amen.
Amen. John?
I feel enlightened right now. Thank you, Willie. I appreciate that. So just a little bit about, for me personally, how do we get women involved in politics? So I always had this mentality. So I ran a nonprofit on the South Side for 8 years. It was a boys and girls little league, ages 3 to 13, and it was 550 boys and girls. And part of my staff, I was the president of the league, but we had everybody work together. And I think I was only male on that board. And I also had the mentality. I played football for 1 year in high school. I was not like Mr. McCarthy here, a linebacker. I was more of a tackling dummy. But I'm glad that I went into baseball. But I was always told in growing up this phrase, and it's, if it is to be, it's up to me. And women and men both have that mentality. It's just we need somebody in public office who is welcoming to both sides. But sometimes we get into a situation where we have a male ego of pushing people away. And that's not part of my character. That's not how I was raised by my mother and father. I also have a sister, so I think who's older than I am. So I think in having a role model in your family who opens up and teaches you about the different aspects of life, that's what makes a good candidate. And that's just about who I am as a human being, and I appreciate all the women here and the moms and the grandmothers. But think about it. You all have kids, right? And we're part of the next generation of politicians. I see this, my right, left eye here, so thank you.
I could have skipped you for that question because I know you're going to involve women in your
Absolutely.
administration.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But let me just say my history of involving women in my administration now. I have over 50%, probably over 70% of women in top administrative positions in my office. And I'm going to ensure that women are involved in my top administration as mayor of the city of Chicago. That's number one. But number two, we want to have a women's advisory committee so that we can have a voice from the women and so that we can reach out. Women really drive a lot of things in this city, this state, and this country. Women have really driven many of the elections. And so, and women, I was a divorced single mother for over 20 years before I got married in the last several years. And so I understand what it means to be a woman that has to make it happen. And I know that women, and so therefore I respect women. I realize that women have just as good of abilities as men. And so I don't treat anyone differently. I hold everybody accountable. And when you respect women, respect men, and hold all of them accountable, and then you'll get the best out of everyone. So that's what I'm going to do as mayor of the city of Chicago, and I will be the first black woman mayor of the city of Chicago.
So we're probably seeing a national trend. There's a phrase that's been trending, and it's trust black women. I firmly believe that that is not something new to those of us who work in these spaces. For me, it is recognizing the fact that we have value to be at these tables, and it's not an exception, right? So this notion of women participating as though we're some sort of auxiliary thing to add to the conversation is false. We have a perspective and a lens that is absolutely essential, and if you're following what is happening nationally, we are taking over these positions because of the value of what we bring to the table. Personally, you embody that. My staff has always had women, not because of its charity, but because there is a necessary perspective. What I've seen, though, is that when it comes to policy decision making, the city has not done a good job of engaging women and taking our voices seriously. One of the examples that I'll bring before I take my seat on this issue of police misconduct. I've sat down with many women who've lost family members, children, to violence of any form, whether police involved or otherwise. But it took 2 years ago for it to rise to the level of urgency where the Department of Justice was called in to draw attention to the issues in the Chicago Police Department. Those of us who engage and work in the communities and knew women that have dealt with this issue know that those voices have been calling out for justice for years. So it's not just who's going to be in the administration and what women are there, but making sure that we engage women in the policymaking process.
Okay, let's do this, because we want everyone to have an opportunity, and we're not going to be able to get to the questions.
There.
So let's say we do,
as you can see,
this is after, this will be before, I just want to make this announcement. Let's say we do
two
2 sentences of answering the question. We're going to have many more forums. We're going to have many more. I'm sure there are going to be forums all across the city. We can go to your website, so we can't get everything in today. All right. Yeah. Oh, we can stay longer. That's true. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm a firm believer that we shouldn't just give women a voice, we should give women power. And instead of, creating committees, I think they should hold some of the highest offices, in this city, which is why I'm going to be supporting many women for aldermen, right? Which is why I would make sure that in my core cabinet that we have powerful women helping to run this city. Even in my campaign, women run my campaign. We have to trust their leadership, as well as listen to them. We have so many different movements going on in the country. One of the biggest ones is the Me Too movement, in which we still, we have men in power all over this country who have not been investigating claims, even in this state, in the Democratic Party, who have not been listening or believing women. And so we're going to run an administration that makes sure that we do just that.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. You let a man try to figure out the microphone, right? First mistake. Let me point out that, you know, this is an easy one for me to answer because women have been carrying me since childbirth. Trust me. All of my administrations have been dominated by women, whether it was at city budget director, as school superintendents. Over 70% of my administrative team were women. Well over half of the principals that I appointed were women. So, and it's not been because I've done that consciously. It's just they've happened to be, no offense to the guys in the audience, the most talented. As simple as that. So, if you're going to get a woman's perspective, you've got to give women real power. And I've always been about that. And I have been the beneficiary of that. That's number one. Number two, you also have to give women economic power. And my priorities have always been to do the type of fair share of the contracting and the resources and the hiring so that minority businesses and women-owned businesses thrive. And we did that. $1.8 billion of all of our school construction programs went to women and minority-owned businesses, and we required that over 50% of the hiring be women or minorities, and 58% were. So, and then finally, you've got to very quickly, you've got to address the issues that are important for women: early childhood education, domestic violence, women's shelters, affordability, because so many households are managed by women that they are most adversely affected when tax and fees and fines are going up. But you're not going to have a woman's agenda unless you give the woman the power to shape that agenda, and that's what I've always done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so these questions are for Mr. Wilson and Mrs. Brown. What can we do to provide more women access to health care, particularly for the reproductive services? Mrs. Brown.
Of course, I am in favor of universal health care. And so as mayor of the city of Chicago, I would be working with the federal government, working with the state, making sure that women are aware of the services that are already available, because I find that, and I've been doing listening tours all over the city of Chicago since June in all the different communities, and I was just recently over in Little Village this past Tuesday, and some people just simply don't know about the services, and these were women, just simply do not know about the services that are available right now. So with my Women's Advisory Committee, I would be looking at the various things that where there are needs for women, and have them advise me and help me do the outreach to make sure that women are aware of the services that are available, and then work with Washington, D.C., work with Springfield to shore up the insurance and the health care for both children and for women. So, and as it relates to reproductive care, of course, I am a person that believes in choice, women having their own choice. And so I would work with the various organizations to ensure that we continue for women to have that choice in this country. Thank you.
Mine would be just simply this here. As mayor of the city of Chicago, we would make sure that all of the females in the city of Chicago that cannot afford health care, let's make it free of charge, okay? If we can find $8 billion to fix O'Hare, we can find the money to take care of the issue of health care. I'm about human needs. I'm not bought by anybody. I don't owe anything to any human being, okay? So you put people first. 80% of my people that we have hired, there's over hundreds of thousands of people since I've been in business, 80% of those are females. You know, 90% of them is on the campaign. You know, just keep it real. Don't vote for me if I gotta tell you a lie. You know, we all gonna work on this thing together. One person cannot fix this problem. It would be what you call inclusion.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. The next question is for Gary and Paul. Services for victims of domestic violence and rape have been slashed. How do you see the situation?
Well, how do you see the situation? I see the situation as in need of a representative, not a leader, not a person who doesn't know that he's a servant of the people. We need a servant in that position. We'll be right back after these messages.
Chicago, the Windy City, home of the tallest buildings in the world, the home of the Chicago Sound of Soul. One of the architects of the Chicago Sound was Carl Davis. He got his first million-selling single at VJ Records. He was known as the man with the golden ear, a musical guru, the Hitman. The Carl Davis Story.
Hey, look, it's those guys.
What's up? What's happening today?
Let's do those pearly whites, man.
Yeah. Boys, check it out. Stand up, do my terrorists, go compare.
Ooh, cute.
Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
Hey girl, what's up? What's the name? What's good? What's up?
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Sir, go and step out of the vehicle for me.
Yes, sir. See ya, buddy. Today, Sean's got a hearing. We'll see how it goes. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Stoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees.
Every now and then I get that feeling, and I've got something I want to say.
One of the great things about being a vegan is that the uniqueness of it.
And I've got to say it my way.
And so gathered with me today are just a sampling of those vegans who have become loyal supporters of Soul Vegetarian.
Welcome to Soul Vegetarian Restaurant.
We are back, and it's time to really continue. I'm getting quite interested in what's happening with those mayors. Didn't get a chance to see it all like it was Saturday, but look at it now. It's right on target. Those I wish we could have all 7 of them as a mayor. Co-mayors. That way, I don't think we would need any aldermen at this time. If we had 7 co-mayors. Anyway, we'll be going to the next video.
And what do you plan to do about providing houses and other services to the survivors?
So, the short answer, which I'll try to give you, is to stop political spending and start doing needs-based spending in the city of Chicago. And what do I mean by that? We don't need a $95 million police academy, which we all know is going to cost $180 million because nothing gets done on time or on budget. I even got Jamal agreeing with me on that one. We don't need a Navy Pier flyover bike path that was budgeted for $30 million, and it now is up to $62 million, and it's not open yet. And the last thing you're going to see out of my administration is announcing a $10 million expansion of the Riverwalk on a Monday after 74 people got shot over the weekend. So what am I saying? I'm saying that we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. Because we've disinvested in the community, and as a result, all of these things are coming back to roost. Now, part of our platform, and I talked about how all of these issues are linked. One of my plans is to bring back the vocational schools, teach people how to fish rather than give them a fish, assume all of these abandoned properties in the city, and use that workforce to rehab those places for affordable housing for people who need it.
Let me speak specifically to the issue that, because it's not a choice between whether or not you're going to have a police academy. And I believe you need a modern state-of-the-art police academy because we need to be training our police officers, period. So as simple as that. But the bottom line is it's not a choice between that. I mean, we have slashed funding for women's programs, for domestic violence. We have slashed funding for mental health. Look, they just got a $10 million settlement on the Uber, and the mayor just said, well, we're going to put it in mentoring programs, whatever that means, where you could have reopened all the mental health facilities that they closed for the next 3 to 4 years with that money. So it's an issue of priorities. And there are many ways, speaking to the issue of domestic violence and women's shelters, to create women's shelters. You can build women's shelters. You can create women co-ops. You can provide vouchers. A lot of times it's as simple as providing somebody with a voucher so that you can put them in a different setting in the right community. So it's simply, the answer is real simple. Either you're going to prioritize it or you're not going to prioritize it. Because we're not talking enormous expenses. But let's face it, we've slashed and burned social services because the individuals who are most impacted are the least vocal until now. So at the end of the day, dealing with women issues are going to be a priority of mine because, in effect, as has always been my case, my administration is going to be dominated by women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So this is a yes or no question for everyone. Do you support pay equity for women?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay.
Can I just say one thing? Yes. It doesn't require a law. You just do it. Okay. It doesn't require a law.
It doesn't require a law. Okay. Do you support paid leave for mothers of newborn?
Yes.
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 Absolutely.
Yes. Will your administration support efforts to ensure a livable wage for women both in government and in private sector?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Women and men. Women and men. Okay. Down. We're talking about women now, so this is a women
Talking
forum.
about women. This is a women forum.
All right.
Sorry,
Sorry,
brother.
brother.
We got you.
No, we'll get to you, though. We'll get to you.
We got the men's forum
Yeah,
next.
exactly. This question, I want everyone to answer except for Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Amari, okay? If there's a runoff, because there's so many people in this race, and you're not in the runoff, will you support a woman for the mayor?
I'm going to support the best candidate, and I can tell you that we have very qualified women, just like we have very qualified men.
Absolutely.
We've got black, white, we don't have Hispanic yet, but we need inclusion and we need recognition that brings us together.
Thank you.
Yeah, my answer is the same. I would be very supportive of the most qualified candidate, and I believe that before this race is over, there'll be, I mean, we have qualified women candidates in this race right now, and there may be more entering before we're done, so yes.
My answer is this here. I have no problem with doing it as long as she has a mind to make sure we have equality and economic development and parity for all its citizens. If she doesn't have that, and she's bought by someone beholden to the Democratic Party, or somebody gave her some money, a white candidate, I would not vote for her. If she have those qualifications, then I would vote for it because it's best for Chicago.
Same for me as all of them. I think it's about the most qualified candidate. Our message in our campaign is that we're not supporting corrupt politicians who are part of the establishment, and we can't do that. So if we do have one that is a part of the establishment and has their hands on by the Democratic Party that reaches the runoff, I would not be looking to support her, but I would look to support a candidate that is beholden to the people, not the establishment.
Yeah, and I resonate with everybody's response here. For me personally, I'm going to do it as if I was voting in any election. I don't vote for political parties. I think both sides, Democrat, Republicans, try to fool us as much as they possibly can. So I vote for candidates. And what I do is personally is decide whether or not are they a good person. Are they genuine? Are they going to care about the city of Chicago? And that's what I'm going to do if there is a runoff as well. Thank you.
Thank you. This question is, we're going to transition to schools. This question is for Paul and for John. What is your position on charter schools, and what are your plans to strengthen the neighborhood schools, John?
So the good thing about myself, so I am a product of the CPS. I went to Mark Sheridan Academy on the south side of Chicago. Me personally, I'm advocating for myself to become the next mayor because I will be able to relate to students better. No offense, because I haven't been 40 years out like some of the other candidates. And when you are able to relate to the students better, you're able to then be a role model. Right now we keep electing recycled politicians over and over. You're going to see a whole wave of new people running for mayor of Chicago. Again, I would discount them. We have a great selection right up here as it is. So me personally, as being a product of CPS, I will advocate for school choice, make sure I don't want kids to have to travel long-term distances just to go to get an education. I don't want kids to feel pressured of getting gunshots walking to school. And that's a problem. We keep investing downtown and the north side. We don't bring it back to the south side and the west side. And that's something that I'm going to advocate on. So thank you.
I have one like 4-inch, 5-inch heels, so I don't want to keep standing up. You did.
I'm afraid if I talk too long, you will kick me with one of those heels. Well, let me just point out, I think we have enough charters now because if we create more schools, what are we going to do? Then close schools? I mean, schools have lost 70,000 enrollment. That wasn't an issue when I was CEO because we had the only increase in school attendance or school enrollment the last 30 years was the 6 years I was superintendent. Again, 70,000 more students than we have now. I would not be uncomfortable with new charters replacing failing charters so that each of the schools can get better. In terms of how do we improve your neighborhood schools, my whole thrust, and one of the reasons we grew the enrollment was I not only put new schools in every community, like when they wanted to do Northside College Prep, I did the Brownsville Military Academy, and I built Gwendolyn Brooks, and I rebuilt Lindblom and King, And so, but it was also about magnetizing neighborhood schools, putting the type of high-quality magnet programs like the IB programs in neighborhood schools, world language academies in neighborhood schools, converting and transforming schools into career and technical education centers. All those closed schools in the community could have easily been repurposed to adult education and occupational training centers, and then you would have seen the enrollment grow. So at the end of the day, I will adopt the strategies that led to a significant increase in enrollment, and duck your heels.
Okay, thank you. So this question is for Jamal and for Amari. CP. Oh, you want to answer that question? Oh, okay. All right, you can answer.
Sorry, I just got to say a few things. One of the main things that we should have in the city of Chicago, since I didn't hear this, is we need an elected school board. All right?
Oh, we were going to get to that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I want to get to the neighborhood school part, though, too. Is that we have neighborhood schools we have constantly disinvested from, incentivizing charter schools, and then lowering the attendance levels of the neighborhood schools, and then they say, what? Are we going to shut them down? When we actually haven't had the proper leadership to make sure those schools are properly resourced and funded. We got 40 kids in a classroom who don't learn the same. We are failing those kids. We need to reduce classroom sizes. We got schools like Tilden High School without one clinical staff member, of hundreds of kids that have many kids that possibly have a mental health problem. Nobody is there to help them treat it. Nobody is there to even talk to them. We got to make sure that schools in Inglewood are just as good as schools in Ravenswood, because it's not fair to those who live in low-income communities that have to ship their kids to a different school to get a better education, failing those kids at Paul Robeson and letting them pass high school with a 7th grade education. It's not fair, and we can't have it.
Thank you. Thank you. Last two questions about the schools. According to the Economic Policy Institute, recently reported the gap between the weekly pay for teachers and those workers who are equally educated and experienced is wider than ever. Now wages for teachers are 18.7% less. As the next mayor of the Chicago, what will you do to raise the pay for teachers so that we can retain high-quality educators? That question is for Gary and for Paul.
So I think that we have to recognize that sometimes when you get an education, you're not necessarily going to go into that field, and you're not going to get paid the way that you should get paid, which is at the heart of this issue. Educators have to be highly educated just by definition, and that needs to be recognized by the size of the workforce, right? Supply and demand all at the same time, so that's an issue. What we can do is we can ensure that our teachers have the support staff to help them succeed, because I believe that teachers want to teach, and I believe that children want to learn, and we have to create the conditions that get us to that place where that can occur. And it can't occur if a child is up all night because there's a crime scene outside their window. And it can't occur if the child doesn't eat breakfast that next morning. And it can't occur if that child has to cross 2 gang lines to get to school, and we expect them to learn geometry at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we have to put those social services right into the schools in a 2-tiered fashion to treat not just the child, but also to treat the family.
You know, for me, it's always been, because we can talk about, you know, that we need that program or this program, or we need to have pay equity. But the question at the end of the day is, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? You have to understand that the reason we were able to increase teachers' salaries 17% during my tenure is because we had programs in the schools, like many of the things that Jamal has been talking about, that grew the district. When they went from 514,000 students in 1979, the peak, to 404,000 students, and then 6 years later when we left, they're at 439,000 students, there were programs in there that made the schools more attractive. And because the schools were growing, we were able to invest in the type of quality programs in neighborhood high schools that had a transformational effect. Similar programs that were in the magnet high schools. And in the process, we were able to hire more than 2,000 additional teachers, and we were able to give teachers 17% pay raises without cutting their health care and fully funding their pensions. So at the end of the day, when a district is declining, it doesn't matter how much new money the state gives you, your formula at both the federal level and the state level with the title funds is tied to the number of students. So even these big increases in funding that they're now getting from the state are going to be offset by the fact that they continue to lose enrollment. So you grow, everybody benefits, including teachers.
Thank you. So the next question is for Mr. Wilson and Mrs. Amari. Currently and always, the school board have been selected by appointing the school board members. As mayor, will you continue the practice of appointing school board members? If not, what will be your approach? Mrs. Amari.
So I have been, for a long time, involved in the fight on the ground for an elected school board because I actually believe that people know what they want and need and believe in democracy. So an elected school board is about accountability, it's about transparency in how resources are used. Very much. So I always stand by that. But I want to touch on an issue when we talk about the school district and declining enrollment and teacher pay and teacher salary. We cannot talk about that issue without talking about what makes up the teaching force. So the number of black teachers that are still in CPS, the number of black men teachers that are teaching our students. If there is a narrative, which there is, that actually demonizes teachers, that devalues the teaching profession, then you see these policies that actually lower how much money they're able to make, what their salaries are, as though they're not deserving of salaries to support themselves and their families. That's what we've seen, and we've seen that happen in direct line with the expansion of charter schools, which don't have to pay teachers as much. So when you have a proliferation of charter schools right next to public neighborhood schools, and they're not paying their teachers as much, now it drives down the salaries that teachers in public neighborhood schools are getting. We cannot address this issue without looking at the teacher pipeline. Most in our communities of the teachers who had experience, who understood their kids, were experienced black teachers who were teaching black kids. That has completely flipped now to where they are not in the classrooms. The salary is lower, and there's a narrative that says that you can't even support yourself on the salary of being a teacher. If we're going to talk about how to address the issues of teacher salary and education quality, we have to address, number one, making sure that we're not competing with other schools for lower salaries, that we're addressing the teacher pipeline at the city and the state level, and that we're not creating policies that demonize the profession so that those who have the most experience are not even able to get into the classroom.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson. School board.
Okay. First of all, I believe in elected school board, right? Second is that I'm not that in tune to the charter school so much because I believe every kid is important. Education is important. We should focus as hard as on the people who cannot get to school or don't go to school, as opposed to trying to say we're going to get a charter school. People look at the people who've been arrested in prison for nonviolent misdemeanor. Been picked up, they get out, they can't even get a job. We cannot overlook them. We must put trade into those schools. Everybody not set out to have a good education and make it in life. Okay? I'm one. I have a 7th grade education, and I'm not ashamed of it. But I can probably make more than everybody up here that do have education. Okay? That is the point, is that we got to focus on those that the least of these. We got to go back and look back and bring them up. We got to put resources in those trade into our community, build a school that everybody's included. Don't leave anybody out. So that's my opinion about the schools and things of that nature. We must refocus on all of us, not just the few.
Thank you. Gary, yes or no, do you support an elected school board?
It's not really yes or no, because I
Yes
support
Okay.
a partially elected school board, which would give the community voice. And if I'm going to be accountable for the education system, I need a voice at the same time.
Okay. John?
Yeah, so I believe in a 9-member school board. 5 are elected and 4 are appointed by the mayor, because think about it right now. Our politicians are elected. So just because it's elected doesn't necessarily solve the problem. There's going to be people who are going to be elected are going to have the money wave in, and that's going to impact the educational system. I don't think so. I also agree with the 5 to 4 member board.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes, I believe in an elected school board.
Jamal?
Fully elected.
I believe in a hybrid board, and let me just say one thing. If you don't give the mayor a stake in the board, then you get what you got. And you all remember back in the 90s and back really right before 1995 when the mayor could easily ignore the schools and do nothing about it and then put his hands up in the air and then say, I have no control over the schools. So I believe you need a hybrid board and you need the community to be represented, but the mayor needs to be able to appoint a couple members to that board.
This question is for Mara. Community violence in Chicago disproportionately affects women, children, and families. What are your strategies for increasing peace?
Can you repeat that end of the question?
The violence affects us as women and children and families. So what are your strategies for increasing peace?
So the strategies for increasing peace is, one, to actually be committed to addressing the root cause of violence in Chicago, which we have not done for decades. So when we talk about violence, we talk about policing, and policing is not the solution to violence. Violence is a symptom of our public policy failings across the board. Violence occurs when we have not invested in schools. It occurs when we have not invested in jobs that are inclusive. It actually is involved in public health, which we never talk about. The food that our children are eating, the fact that they're being exposed to public health hazards like lead in the water or manganese in the soil if you live on the far south side, and that there's actually a biological implication for that kind of exposure that affects learning and behavior. We never talk about that. It is about access to green space, affordable housing, stability. When we failed in every area of public policy, it manifests as violence. So if we're going to address violence, it means investment. Investment in education in every neighborhood. Investment in creating jobs where people can be employed. Not cutting the program for lead abatement, but actually expanding it. Opening mental health and behavioral health facilities as opposed to closing them. These are the things that we've done over the last several years, and then we all look at each other and scratch our heads about why violence has not decreased. When we focus on policing as a solution to violence, we get investments in police infrastructure. We need to be focusing on the things that build up people and build stronger communities, and we will see violence decrease.
Jamal, what are your strategies for increasing peace?
So some of and you say my strategies for increasing peace. So I want to touch on some of the question because that all, I believe, aligns that. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. We were going to deal with the gun violence part, but you can go ahead and talk.
Well, what you have is exactly what she said. You have systemic problems that are going on in these communities. And so you have people on the streets with no hope in survival mode. You know, I'm the only candidate here that have spent time campaigning on Madison and Pulaski, right? Where we have lots of, all right, Madam Brown, you're gonna get a chance to do a rebuttal. Well, that's fine. The only candidate pictured on Madison and Pulaski that people can actually attest to. So what we have is we have people who are out there without hope. And I said to them, if you had a good job with benefits, would you get off of the streets? You know what their answer was? Yes. Because there is no market for what they're doing. They're just trying to feed their families each and every day. And so if you do not have programs to get people out of survival mode and have programs to give them hope and actually think that they can actually have change or believe that they can actually have change, then you can't say be peaceful because we aren't doing our jobs first.
Thank you, thank you. So, thank you. This is a two-part question, and anyone who wants to answer it can answer it. But as mothers and sisters and aunts, and we are concerned about the violence in our communities. And I've had the unfortunate experience of eulogizing so many black men. And so I am concerned. So what are your plans for reducing the violence in our community? And with the level of trauma that many of our families feel, what are your plans for increasing social services, including mental health facilities to our neighborhoods?
You're going to have, in order to fix the problem, you're going to have economic equality. You're going to need to understand about business, right? Let's keep it real, right? You're going to need to understand about taxes. You need to understand about the bonds. You need to understand about the stock market. You're going to need to understand how to hire people, 300 or 400 people, 1,000 people, and making sure that we can create a job, lower the taxes, not raising the taxes, not be bought by other people, right? These things have got to come in place because you create economic empowerment within the community. Then you got jobs. I'm the only person, when you talk about only, that done spent millions of dollars getting people out of jail, all right? Paying people taxes, all right? I say don't vote for me if I haven't done, but vote for me from what I've done in the past.
All right, thank you. So, bringing down the violence in the city of Chicago. So my thought is that, and I believe that we have twin issues here. We have criminal misconduct and we have police misconduct. And we have to deal with both. Now, I'm about criminal and social justice reform, making sure that there is fairness in the way we mete out justice. So in dealing with the criminal misconduct, you know, I believe that, yes, we have to give our young people, our people, alternatives to crime. And in doing that, we have to first start with our school system and making sure that that is a high quality school system. And that we have jobs, that we're training them for the jobs that are available, but yet that we bring jobs to the city of Chicago as well. Now, I'm not talking about just dealing with the schools, the children that are school age, but also the individuals that are already out of school. I think we ought to use the schools in the evening. My parents went to school at night, at my elementary school. We ought to bring programs to the schools in the evening, those vocational and career service programs to help people that are already out of school, to give them hope. Now, Superintendent Johnson says there are about 2,000 people that are wreaking the havoc on the city of Chicago. If we know about those 2,000, then let's start working with those 2,000, bringing some of the organizations, strengthening some of the organizations that have programs in place to help them. Now, on the police misconduct side, I wouldn't wait for a consent decree from the federal government. I would start to put in place community policing, training police officers about excessive use of force, accountability, all of those things that the United States Justice Department said needs to be had.
Police accountability, yeah. We're gonna talk
so
about
that's what I'm dealing with. Criminal and social justice reform from the police department all the way to the prison. Every entity, the judiciary.
Okay, we're out of time.
All of them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Respect your elders. So, I already talked about the fact that all the issues we have in Chicago are interrelated. We're losing population, primarily African American middle class, because of gun violence and high taxes. Because we're losing our tax base, we all have to pay more taxes. Because we don't have a tax base, we're closing schools and pulling social services from the neighborhoods that we need the most, and that's causing more gun violence. So we have to have a recognition and an overarching strategy that addresses each of the three legs of our failure as government. And the only way that we can do that is by recognizing our history. We got to first learn how we got here before we can recognize the problem and figure out how to fix it. And I want to make one last comment on this. Everybody loves to talk about police legitimacy and police trust. Well, you can't have legitimate police under an illegitimate government, which is what we have here in Chicago. So it starts right there with legitimacy and transparency in government. But with it, I'm a student of history. We have to recognize the history of how we got here. Slavery, black codes, segregation, Jim Crow. Racist laws that were written into the books of the United States of America, which were enforced by the white police officer. And we cannot say we can reestablish something that never existed before.
You see me standing up?
That's a nice segue for you, Jamal. That's a nice segue for you. You can't reestablish trust that never existed before.
That's good, man. Boy, woo. Gary getting good, ain't he, y'all? All right, so when you talk about reducing violence, we have to talk about some of the people it's a multi-pronged issue in which people on the streets have been failed in so many different ways. So for instance, when you have a kid, where do they start out from? They start out from the home, right? So we know that we have a problem in this generation when it comes to home. So how do we actually have programs to deal with that? For instance, we presented a program called the Gas and the Ass program. It's Guardian Accountability Services and Youth Accountability Services, in which if it's a young person that, say, vandalizes city property, instead of arresting them and giving them a record, they will automatically be eligible for a program that says you got to do 6 months at this mentoring program that we're partnering with. You have to do a certain number of community service hours. You have to go and clean that up instead of just giving them a record and letting them come back out and repeat again. But when yes is triggered, gas is triggered. So then we would actually go to the home and see why that child is consistently acting in the way that they are. So if that child has to do 10 community service hours, then we would say, well, that parent should do 5 community service hours, half of what they're doing, so that we can actually bridge the gap between these parents and these kids. Now, we have, real quick, and I'm gonna end on this, then when they come out the home, it is our responsibility to make sure that they have a proper environment. So where's the incentives for corporations to set up shop in these communities? They don't want to come to these communities because they're violent. So we have to have a plan to incentivize them setting up shop to create thousands of jobs, but also holding them accountable to, you standing up, also holding them accountable to hire many people in that very community, whether that is 51% or higher. So things of that sort. Thank you.
I just want to make a concrete point related to policing. So the notion that it is normal to have your community or neighborhood saturated by outside actors that are supposed to protect the residents is something that I think we have to move away from. We actually have the ability to build infrastructure in our communities where we can monitor ourselves. We don't need to be asking for police to be in our communities to police us, right? So if you look at the budget over the last 15 to 20 years, and the CPD budget is about 40%, 37% of the city's overall budget. That's a lot of money. Look at what is allocated to community policing, and look at how that budget has declined over the years. Safe neighborhoods are neighborhoods where people actually know each other and they monitor themselves. Block clubs. How do we build block club infrastructure? The city can do that to where they can actually support viable block clubs that can monitor their own blocks. If we're talking about keeping our community safe, we can't be asking outside forces that will over-police us and do all of the things that those of us who experience it in the neighborhoods know happens. The investment has to be in building infrastructure that is lasting in the neighborhoods, that empowers us to do for ourselves.
Well, great. Well, first of all, I have to compliment Amari how, at an earlier comment, how she kind of capsulized what the issue is. We've got to revitalize our neighborhoods. We've got to revitalize our communities. But but I like to really focus on specifics. We know that there are vast areas of the city that have been underdeveloped for decades, and they haven't recovered from the '68 riots, let alone the 2008 recession. So you all know what I'm talking about. So what do you have to do? Very simply, first of all, the city and the school district budget and the aviation budget, you're talking about $16, $17 billion in resources to be allocated. There's no reason why you can't use that budget to invest in minority companies and to hire minority workers. We did it with our $3.2 billion school construction program. And that doesn't take an act of Congress. That is an executive decision. Secondly, we have economic development tools that aren't going to the west and south sides. The TIF profits need to be shared with the west and south sides. The developer fees need to go where they're needed, not need to go who's politically connected. We need to take advantage of the new Opportunity Zone money, which provides immense tax breaks for the west side and the south side. And finally, we have got to build our community infrastructure, and that's our social service infrastructure. I think that's what Amari's talking about. I know that's what Amari's talking about. So taking a page from her is the community has got to have the infrastructure to take care of itself. So that means community-based mental health centers, opioid addiction clinics, early childhood centers, business support centers, family counseling centers, legal aid centers. So the community has the infrastructure to take control of its own destiny.
All right, so we won't be able, thank you so much, we won't be able to get to all of these. Oh, Joe.
I'll maybe if I could go first for the next question, and I'll maybe introduce my plans for the last question.
Okay. So the question now is about policing. How can we maintain safe neighborhoods while not resorting to stop and frisk policies? I've been a victim of that, so how can we work within our communities?
Yeah, so just answering, I know, just imagine when they add 10 more candidates how hard it's going to be to get through everybody. But going on the last question, with kids, with students, if we don't nurture them at an early age, it's going to be 10 times more hard when they become young men and young women. So I have a program in place called the Little Professionals League. So if we can have Little League Baseball, Little League Softball, Little League Football, then we can have Little League Doctors, Little League Lawyers, and Little League Carpenters at an early age. Going into this question, I have a plan in place. So I'll be honest, I've come from a family of police officers. My cousin's a police officer, my brother's was with the CPD. However, the issue is having the community and the police department to work together, because right now there's just way too much tension going on, and that's not benefiting anybody except criminals. So my specific plan is to have, in order to police in that district, 60% of the police have to live in that district. Right now,
well, so far, you've seen 7 people speaking up for themselves to become mayor of the city of Chicago. Now, from what I understand, since Rahm is gone, all these cowards will jump into the race now, because Rahm is gone. If you wanted to be mayor, why didn't you want to be mayor while Rahm was there? Oh, you were afraid of him? Well, too bad. He's gone. Let's go to the next video.
Well,
I just want
to. We're gonna get back to that, but because I have to ask this question, and they're texting me saying we need the audience to ask questions. So I want to know how would we hold police accountable when unarmed citizens are killed by the police? And so I want you can start out with that question, and then I want Mr. Wilson and Mr.
Yes. 1 minute.
Gary, Mr. Ball.
And so let me just say one thing as far as that. We would love for our police officers to work where they actually live, but it's actually right now impossible to do. And so it's something that it's going to take years to renegotiate. We still got the fraternal order of police that we would have to fight to renegotiate their contract to actually get some of those things in there. But as far as accountability, now we presented an idea that is now sparked around the country, in which we believe police officers should carry insurance policies, and which insurance companies will be able to assess the liability on police officers and deem them too risky or not. And if they are too risky because of their record and because of their lawsuits, they would get dropped from their policies, which would then allow me to reassign them to desk duties because you won't be able to patrol my streets. We have to figure out a way to hold them accountable. That's our medium, as well as save money for the city. We're spending billions of dollars on police misconduct and more on the interest on the bonds that we're taking out. We got to hold them accountable with insurance policies. Thank you.
All right, good.
So I need to be clear that if a police officer violates the law, they need to be prosecuted like anybody else in this country. It's really that simple. But we also have to set up a structure that assigns accountability to the people who are in charge. And today, we still don't have that. Eddie Johnson is in the same exact position that I was in. Because of knee-jerk reaction politics, we have created a system that takes the authority away from the superintendent, but still holds them accountable. And I want to be clear. As the superintendent, I could only make recommendations to the police board for suspensions of 30 days or more, right up to termination. And they disagreed with my separation cases 75% of the time while I was superintendent. Yet I was accountable for the behavior of the officers. That's a failed system. Accountability without authority equals failure.
Well, I think you have to take integrate the police department from top all the way down. Same will go for the if you're lieutenant, 27% of the Chicago population happen to be African American, it should reflect the police department. Okay? 27% of the population, African American, or well, Latina, a little more, whatever it may be, that ought to reflect the different ranks. Call it economic equality, call it parity, whatever you want to call it. But we must take a look at that, because if you have more white police on the force than black police, there are always going to be issues. You know, they must have the same power as anybody else have within in the community. But if you got the majority of African American, majority of Hispanic, population of Chicago, and you got less population of white, but you got more white in charge of everything, you're going to have issues. Okay? So I look at this, and I challenge everybody up here too, is whoever become the mayor, make a commitment that if Chicago is 27% African American, 28% Hispanic, and other workforce parity and equality and job, and all the way to the city of Chicago, put training program in places to help those who do not have the experience to learn it and work on getting there.
I think that each time, and we're talking about holding police accountable, I believe, and I think that each time that there is a police misconduct situation, that there has to be an assessment immediately to determine whether or not there's criminal misconduct, or is it something that should be investigated by the police department. And if it's police misconduct, if it's criminal misconduct, then the state's attorney needs to be involved immediately, and then we need to make sure that they're being charged. And then we have to make sure that those cases, that the state's attorney is charging them properly, because we did have a situation where the state's attorney did not charge properly, and therefore that person was released. And then on the side of the, if it's just misconduct of the officers, then we have to restructure the way the cases are investigated. We need to make sure that there's transparency within the police department when a police officer is being investigated. Make sure that there is when there is a complaint, that there is accountability for that there is a tracking for that, because from what I understand, the Chicago Police Department does not even know how many complaints there were against police officers, so that we can actually have a record and track them so that we know where our problems are. And then let me say this final thing, because one of the things that the Justice Department said is that there needs to be a health and wellness review of police officers. Those are our sisters and our brothers, our mothers and our fathers.
Candidate Brown, we have to cut you off because we need to make sure that the people in the audience can have a chance to answer questions. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am. So we need mental health and wellness for our police officers as well. Is the point I'm trying to make.
Thank you.
I'm going to be real quick because I'm within striking distance. Look, you're not going to have effective policing and police accountability without infrastructure. And when you tread out literally 2,000 officers and you allow the detective division to drop to 700 and one sergeant for every 30 officers, you don't have effective policing, you don't have effective accountability. So there's no substitution for building up that infrastructure, because when you're moving police officers all around the city, they're working in communities that they don't know, and people don't know who's working in their communities. I'll say one more thing. When I was in Chicago Public Schools, I opened 7 military academies and 42 ROTC programs. There are 11,000 students in ROTC in the Chicago Public Schools. They're among the best students. 87% of those students are African American or Latino. You want the next pipeline of police officers in EMS and drone piloted operators in TSA and first responders to come from the community? You partner with those ROTC programs. 11,000 students, 87%. You do that, and in the next 5, 6, 7 years, the majority of the police department is going to reflect the community.
Thank you, Amara.
Accountability is about transparency first and foremost. We have to be willing to have a mayor who is willing to talk to the Fraternal Order of Police and advocate actually in the interests of the people of the city of Chicago. Not just because of the moral reason, but because we're paying $1 billion, $1.7 billion because of police misconduct cases alone. That's what you all are paying. We're paying that. So if we don't have a mayor that is actually willing to advocate for our interests to the Fraternal Order of Police, where the contract is negotiated, that governs all of the matters of accountability and transparency, then we're all just talking and we're not going to get any results. That's where it starts. 2, the culture of the department. A culture is created with the people who are in leadership positions. We're talking about attracting people, telling our kids to go and work in the police department, but if this is the perception of what that department does, how would they be attracted to join the force? You can't expect people to be running to sign up to become police officers if they're seeing these numbers, if they're seeing the number of misconduct cases, if they know that the clearance rate for homicides is 17%. What is the attraction? So we have to first address the issues of transparency and accountability, have an advocate that advocates actually in the interest of the city of Chicago, not just the police, and then put the right people in place so that we have a police department that will actually attract those students and individuals who might want to become police officers.
Can you all please direct your attention to Ms. Jillian? We want to make sure we involve you because we know you all came and you have some questions of your own. Jillian?
So we are running a little bit short on time. I'm going to ask that if you have a question that you please limit it straight to the question and not your experiences or events that have happened to you, but just direct questions. So is there anyone who has a question for the candidates? And please make sure you direct it to a specific candidate as well.
Yes.
Sit down, please.
Get this too.
Sit down, please.
Well, I'm going to give it to Dorothy Brown. Ms. Brown, as a child I grew up, my parents owned 3 gas stations, Shell gas stations. Okay, what would you do to start small black businesses in the city of Chicago? Because we can't even go buy a bag of potato chips and a soda from an African American today.
Thank you. That's all a part of my economic development plan, bringing fairness and equity throughout the entire city of Chicago. And what I'm talking about is community, health, and wealth building, and having an economic development plan for each area of the city. I'll have a team allocated to each area of the city, and within that area, we will make sure that the community is involved in creating that plan. And as a part of that economic development plan, we will help people that want to start a small business or people that are already in business. We will help to strengthen them. So what I want to do is create a technology platform that the city controls, that will provide information to each person that wants to start a business, already has a business. So on that platform, we'll have information about small business administration grants and loans and things that you can get. I have information about banks that are available to give small businesses loans. If you do business with the city and I put money in your bank, then you should be willing to give small businesses loans. And so we'll have that information on our website. Also have information about pro bono legal services. The reason why small businesses fail is because they don't understand legal services, they don't understand accounting services. So I have information on there about pro bono legal services, pro bono accounting services, everything that a business needs to survive, so that they're not just out there on their own trying to survive, but we as a city, my office as mayor, will help them to survive. Because if we help our businesses survive, we strengthen the foundation of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to just briefly.
Thank you to all the candidates. So my question is addressed to Dorothy Brown, and depending on time, Gary McCarthy. So my question is, Amara, you spoke of black people leaving the city in droves, and that is true, and I believe it's purposefully so, not just for the violence, but gentrification as well. So Ms. Dorothy Brown and Gary McCarthy, depending on time, how can you make sure that the initiatives that are important to the black community are not lost in the minority initiatives? Because we need something specific to us, and it's too often lost, and that's why we feel displaced, as you said, Amara.
Thank you for that question. So what I'm going to do is to have an urban economic development plan specifically geared to the African American community, especially the South and the West Side. In my economic development plan, overarching economic development plan, I'm going to have an urban plan specifically geared towards the community. And then I want to have advisory councils, especially youth advisory councils, and for the various communities, especially for the African American community, so that I can be informed. And I'm going to be out there. See, sometimes people get in offices and you can't find them. That's not what I have done as clerk of the court, and that's not what I'm going to do as mayor of the city of Chicago. You know, I didn't talk about in my expungement summits earlier, which I have done to help to reduce the violence in this city. And so I'm going to look at every possible program that we can find to bring people back to this city to address the issues specifically related to the African American community. Thank you.
I think the question was directed to Amara also before we got to the next person.
No, it was me.
Okay.
It was me. So very quickly, I kind of touched on it already. We need to create a workforce. We need to teach people to fish, not give them a fish, right? Teach them a trade. Then give small businesses tax breaks to ensure that we create markets for those jobs, for that trained workforce that's now coming out of our vocational schools. It's all interrelated. This will spur hope, this will get jobs, and this will give economic development in the neighborhoods right now that don't have any of that. Because while there's more jobs downtown, there's less African Americans working downtown than there was before. Those jobs have to come out to the neighborhoods.
Oh, while standing. I had a question, but the gentleman here actually took my question. So I'll be redundant, maybe trying to do something else.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
My name is Adeline Brace. I'm a community activist and I'm a proud member of Auburn Gresham.
Pull it up, please.
My name is Adeline Brace. I'm a community activist and a proud member of the Auburn Gresham community. And my question is, I don't know if you're familiar with the Sterling Bay real estate investment firm. I understand that they've asked Rahm Emanuel for what? You heard me. For $1 billion with a B, $1 billion. They're totally want to invest $5 billion in the, I think it's Webster Place over there around Fulton Market area. They're developing that area. And I believe they're asking the city for $1 billion. And how would you spend that money, the $1 billion that they're asking for? I said we should not give it to them. It should be better spent in some of the neighborhoods where it's really needed, the plighted neighborhood. So anyone up there on the panel can answer that question for me.
So one of the biggest issues in the city is the disparity in economic investment. So you're mentioning the $1 billion. We can mention the $5 billion that's allocated for a Northside Development Project. And my background is in economic development. So there's times when I've had real estate development projects for $250,000 and was told, oh, there's no money. This comes down to an issue, one, of access to public dollars. So we mentioned the TIF funds earlier today. How those dollars are allocated is supposed to be designed to support economic investment in blighted communities or communities that are more challenged. We have to have transparency and oversight to make sure that those communities are getting those dollars. Two, this notion of development that is responsible and linked to other areas of the city. So the $1 billion going to Webster Place or wherever that is, what is the equivalent or another development that is equal to that's going on the south side or the west side or some other part of the city? We can't continue to give money away to these developers without demanding that they actually invest elsewhere in the city. That sort of linked development model is absolutely essential in development. We also have to recognize the scale. All too often, we are told to accept the $5 million that will be spread around the 10 most challenged communities in the city, whereas Navy Pier will get $55 million, public dollars, for a project that most of us will never benefit from. We have to understand that scale and actually demand investment, because when the city wants to do it, they can come up with $2 billion for a Lucas Museum. They can come up with a $2 billion incentive package for Amazon to come to Chicago. What are we demanding in our neighborhoods? The last piece that I want to mention about entrepreneurship, I manage a Chamber of Commerce, I work with small businesses. I was involved in changing the legislation at the state level that reduces the LLC filing fees from what it was, which was about $500, $600 to $150. Those are the kinds of tangible things that we have to do to encourage entrepreneurship in our communities. I was involved in state legislation that just got passed 2 months ago that actually makes it so that in our commercial corridors, where we're not getting the tax.
Okay, we're back, and going to do one more commercial, and then come back and finish it up. We'll be right back after these messages. Yeah, okay. Now, come to Golden's Tropical World for tropical fish of all sizes, colors, and types, and other small animals like iguanas, and birds from all over the world. There are beautiful tanks, pet supply needs, including dog and cat foods, and expert consultation. Check out Golden's Tropical World, 8611 South Ashland Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. Call ahead, 773-239-8809. Your Pet Shop.
Hart, what's going on? I'm leaving. Why? What did I do? Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit. Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just please, don't leave. Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
No, I'm scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Why?
Why?
Why are you following me?
Why my hoodie make me look suspicious?
Why does my music make me dangerous?
Why are people that are supposed to protect me attacking me?
Why are you afraid of me? Why do you think I'm dangerous? Why do I afraid of people who are supposed to protect me?
Why can't I make a peace sign without you labeling a gang sign?
Why does standing your ground only work when I'm on the ground?
Why do you show this photo over this one?
Why do you only stop and frisk me?
Why do you have low expectations for me?
Why can't I run down the street without causing alarms?
Why do you think I'm a thug?
Why do you assume I'm armed?
Why can I breathe? Why is my mom scared every time I leave the house?
Why are you targeting me?
Why am I a target?
Why?
Why? I know why. And it has to stop. It must stop.
Because I have dreams. Because I can change the world.
Because I'll make a difference. Because I have a family.
Because I am strong.
Because I'm talented.
I have a voice.
I can find a cure.
I have goals.
I can lead the country.
I am determined.
I have a future.
Because I'm a scholar.
I am powerful.
I'm someone's friend. I'm someone's brother.
I'm someone's son.
Someone loves me.
And because my life matters too.
My life matters.
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 Our lives matter.
And so did theirs.
Now, my question is, what are you looking for in a candidate? What are you looking to hear from him? Are you looking for a person who wants to represent the people or lead the people? I don't think anybody up there, strike that. You have a couple of leaders that's there. You have a couple of leaders that's there on the screen. Like Gary McCarthy said, his job as a police superintendent, he was the pseudo leader of the police department. But when you're micromanaged by the mayor, that means you're not in charge. You're just there as his micro leader or pseudo leader. What about budget director? Same thing. school superintendent, same thing. Now, Dorothy Brown has an elected position as the clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County. She is the leader of that department. She's not. She can't be controlled by anyone. She was elected to run that department. Now, but her duties are to the people that elected her, put her into office. No one else. The mayor, once elected, he has those same responsibilities, duties to the people that put him in office. There's no one else over him. But that's not the way it goes, people. That's how it's laid out to be legally. But when it comes right down to it, the Democrat Party runs the mayor of the city of Chicago. Now, when Richard J. Daley was the mayor of the city of Chicago, he put himself in charge of the Cook County Democratic Party. So he ran the Cook County Democratic Party, which means as the mayor, he ran the mayor as well. So, but when Harold Washington Harold Washington became the mayor of the city of Chicago, he was not controlled by the Democratic Party. He was not controlled by the ward committeemen of the city. He ran his administration. He equalized the city of Chicago in its employment methods. He employed whites, Hispanics, blacks. The representation of the city of Chicago was in City Hall. He saw that representation in City Hall. He was not controlled by the Democratic Party. He was not influenced by the Republican Party. That's the person I want in office. See? People say, are you a Republican or a Democrat? I'm a Democrat. Are you voting? Well, yeah, Pritzker is going to be the next governor. No, I'm not voting for no Pritzker. But he's a Democrat. I don't vote for a party. I vote for a person. I vote for a person I think is going to do the best that he can for the citizens of the state of Illinois. And my eyes was wide open for the last 4 years when Ronald was there. I saw he was attempting to do a number of things that would have helped the whole state of Illinois. But whom I was concerned about was the help that he was trying to give to the black business community, which would allow the black business community to employ more black workers. You would have seen black workers on the highway, black workers building state buildings. You would have seen that. But he could not fight the legislature. The legislature was Democrat under the leadership of Madigan. And being under that leadership, they have a contract with the state of Illinois, as I've said so often on this program, with this AFL-CIO, to say that only one company can bid for a contract. You didn't have enough companies, black companies, who had the capacity to bid for one of those billion-dollar contracts. We had one who bid it, got the contract, and then was lied on to the state, telling the state that they weren't paying their union dues. He brought the receipts in to show that he was paying the union dues for all of his employees. They said, well, we don't care about those receipts. The union said that you were not paying your dues, so that's what we got to go by. You're gone. Pushed him out of office, out of the job. Now, when Ronna came in, it took him a while, but he was able to get the man back on the job based on what we told him. He got him back on the job. You see, we have to pay attention to everything that's happening around us. We can't just go on what so-and-so said. Well, he's a Democrat. He's a Republican. He's a this. Damn that moniker of Republican or Democrat. What is in his brain? What's his attitude toward diversity in employment, in hiring, contracts? That's what you want to know. Not his political affiliation. And especially if he says, I'm a Democrat, then you know he's going to be controlled by a system that's not in your best interest. Even though you got a lot of blacks, most of blacks are saying, I'm a Democrat, which is myself. I say I'm a Democrat. But I got sent up to see beyond what that Democrat thing means. Talk with some people at the forum regarding this. Say, yeah, we got to get Ronna out of there, and we got to do this. And I said, you're going to get Ronna out for what? Why would you get Ronna out? Well, he's not doing it. I said, he didn't do anything but try to help black business people. And he was held back by those individuals that you're talking about voting for. Pay attention to what's happening around you, and maybe, just maybe, we will come out of the rut that we are in. If everybody starts paying attention to what's happening around them and stop being hoodwinked by a party. Okay, let's go back to the last video, and we'll see what the guys have to say in closing.
Revenue. We actually clear the barriers so that businesses can locate in some of those vacant spaces. We also have to look at who owns the land and who owns the buildings. The first rule of community development is those two questions. We can't talk about anything related to entrepreneurship or changing the economic landscape in our communities if we don't own the land, if we don't own the homes, and if we don't own the businesses.
Thank you so much. So I just want to say we will be able to, or the candidates will be able to engage in more specific questions with the audience, but for the sake of this event, this will have to be the last public question, but I invite you guys to stick around and continue to answer questions from those in the audience.
Thank you. This question is for Dorothy Brown. I know we talked about how we can give economic power for people, but everybody keeps forgetting those that need a second chance. As the mayor, what can you do to help the citizens of the city of Chicago that deserve a second chance so that they'll be able to get a job like everybody else?
I think he said Dorothy Brown.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for that question, because I already have a history of giving people a second chance. I didn't just start last year because I was running for mayor doing my expungement summits. I've been doing them for over 14 years, helping people get a second chance at life. Having these overall expungement and sealing summits so people come, and I even have judges there to be able to rule people indigent so they can file for free. I have attorneys there that actually prepare the petitions for them. I have my staff there, but the chief judge makes it an official court day on a Saturday for individuals to be able to get that second chance. And so as mayor of the city of Chicago, my plan is to help to sponsor expungement centers all over the city of Chicago. I believe that many people have things on their record because they were unfairly arrested. And a lot of people don't even understand the importance of getting things off of their records. So I'm going to have expungement centers, help to sponsor expungement centers all over the city of Chicago. I was with a gentleman that cried, actually shedded tears, on Jules' parking lot because he told me all he ever wanted to do was to be able to take care of his little angel, his daughter. And because he came to one of my expungement summits, he has a great job and he's able to take care of her. That let me know that helping people to get their criminal records that many of them have changed their lives. And they just simply want to be able to help. If we help some of these people, especially our young people, our juveniles, and the law has been changed for juveniles that they can pretty much get everything expunged so that they won't have to be committing these crimes, to give them alternatives to crimes and be able to get a second chance. Thank you.
Thank you.
We want everyone, thank you all for bearing with us in this heat. We want all the candidates to be able to have closing remarks. And I've been told instead of 2 minutes, 30 seconds, I'm sorry. That's going to be tough, I know. But we want all of you all to have closing remarks, right? Okay. Ladies first? Or youth first? What do you say, respect the elders?
Ladies always first.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening today. You are an engaged electorate. I started out by saying that I made the decision to run for mayor because I felt that we need a mayor that has a heart for the people. And I have demonstrated that in all the things that I have done in my life, not just as the clerk of the court, but all of my life, I've been helping people. And also, I said that we need a mayor that's qualified to run this office. I have the academic preparation, the financial acumen, because we have to make sure that we are stabilizing these finances of the city. And as a CPA and an MBA,
you hear what she said, Tony?
I have the financial acumen to be able to stabilize the finances of this city.
Thank you.
So I need you to go to dorothyformayor.com and join my campaign.
Thank you.
Vote for Dorothy Brown. Thank you.
So I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank, I guess that's time, right? I want to thank all of you for being here today, and I'll close with the same thing that I said at the beginning. This election cycle represents the city of Chicago's last, in my view, opportunity to move in the right direction, where it's not just the experience that you have, but the kind of experience and the right kind of experience that's necessary to change the culture of this city. So for me, it's always been about a vision and ideas for how to move us forward. We know what the past has led us to. We're living it right now. So this is our opportunity to have a vision for the right direction of the city with the ideas and the commitment to service that is required for anyone who wants to run for mayor of the city.
Thank you.
The mayor may be gone, but the problems he created are left behind. If we're going to move this city forward, we need to stop focusing on what makes us different and start focusing on what makes us the same. That's our values. I know that you want for your children what I want for my children, what everybody here wants for their children. That can only happen if we put our differences aside, surround ourselves with different people. And I've got to tell you, we might be a lot different up here, but I think you heard some different people saying the same things.
That's time.
I'm good.
Thank you.
All right. First of all, again, thank you to the organization for having us here, and especially thank you guys for being here. Of course, you're going to have your candidate that you might be leaning towards. Obviously, it's me. I appreciate that. But no, seriously, thank you for taking the time to be dedicated to listening to all the candidates up here. And just resonating with what Gary said, we all have our hearts in the right places. We all do. There's a lot of great people up here. There's a lot of great people in Chicago that make up our city. Now, and I urge everybody, just join a campaign. Join a campaign. Don't let us be the dictators. Be a part of the change that's coming to Chicago. So thank you all.
Thank you.
So I'm going to take my 30 seconds to ask you guys, do you want the same old corrupt establishment to keep running this state and city?
No.
Do you want politicians who don't care about these very communities that are suffering the most? Do you want constant arrests, where we've had politicians who have been arrested over the last 8 years and people that have been appointed. Do we want those type of things? Look at the candidate that you're leaning towards and look and see if they're actually talking about solutions. We don't need any, I'm going to release plans, I'm going to release plans. We've had that enough. We need a solutions-based mayor and someone new.
Thank you.
Go Green.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I apologize for being late. You all run a really good meeting. We should have you sponsor the rest of our public forums. I want to thank my colleagues for having the courage to run when Emmanuel was still in the race, and beware of the establishment picking the next mayor. So that means, I mean, let's face it, you all are the reason that Emmanuel's not running. So you drove him out. Now don't let them steal it. I'm going to stick around, and I'd love to answer that question about the opportunities for those who have been disenfranchised in a little more detail, so I'll hang around. But God bless you all, and have a safe and relaxing weekend.
Thank you, everybody. Can we have First Woman of Faith come up? We want a picture with all of the candidates who took the time to be here. All First Woman of Faith and the sisterhood, please. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Yeah, they're just going to take pictures. They're going to take pictures from there.
Marcelo.
Well, we saw the group of people who were running against Rahm Emanuel. They had the nerve to come in and say, I want to be the mayor right now. They didn't wait until he leaves and then decide they want to be the mayor. You see a lot of folks now who were cowards in the beginning, but now that he's gone, they want to jump into the race. We don't need no cowards to be the mayor. We don't even want the cowards running for mayor. If you wanted to be the mayor, why did you put your hat in the ring 2 or 3 months ago? Why did you wait until now? Something wrong with that picture. Cowards. I wouldn't say everybody who wants to be mayor or who wants to come in now are actually cowards, but they are part of Emmanuel's group. So I'm not going to run against my buddy or my friend or my colleague. So if you're his friend and colleague, still, I don't want you in. If you're a part of anything he was a part of, I don't want you in. I'm not going to vote for you. Do I know who was a part of what he's about and what he's done? Yes, I do. Ask me and I'll tell you. Now, with that said, I want to thank you for watching this forum, and we're going to have more. In fact, we're going to try and get the whole group to come here, so we can show you the phonies who just running because, hey, I'm a good Democrat, and if I run, I could probably get all the Democratic votes because they know I'm a Democrat. See, but we're trying to change that paradigm. We're going with 10 for 10 to win. See how it rhymes? 10 for 10 to win. Mark Wallace came up with that slogan. He came up with the process. And every Friday at Lagos Baptist Church at 108th and Halsted, on the east side of the street, you'll see the church, Lagos Baptist. Go there at 7 p.m. and get the idea of what 10 by 10 means. We come together with that kind of strength, we don't have to be worried about these Democrat or Republican from that point on. We'll pick the person that's going to serve the people of Chicago and the state of Illinois. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk, and like I say, we'll let you know when the next one comes around. Good night. We'll see you this time tomorrow.